Hello, everyone. It's Matthew Baxley here, Community Support Provider for Public Health and Human Services. It's been a really hard week this last week in our community. Lots of losses experienced on so many different levels for many, if not all of us. One really specific and painful loss for many of us has been the loss of a beloved youth in our community. And I want to take time to talk today about how now more than ever we as adults can be anchors in the storm for the kids in our lives who are hurting. But that's not always an easy thing to do or to know how to do. So today I'm going to hit 6 things that we can do to help the young people in our lives process their feelings and thoughts around suicide in a healthy way. And I'm going to hit those 6 things really quick, and if you want to continue watching after that, I'm going to get into a more in-depth description of ways to have conversations with the youth and kids in our lives. So first and foremost, find a safe and secure place to have a conversation that it can be undisturbed. Second, be honest in that conversation and direct in your thoughts and feelings and explanations, but do it in an age-appropriate way. Model talking about your own emotions with your child so that they can know how to do the same with you. Listen. Ask questions and listen. That can be hard. And allow them time and space to share whatever it is they need to without any judgment from you. 5, share with your child or youth what common reactions are to loss and what the grieving process looks like, and know yourself what warning signs may be that they're struggling with their own grief. And 6, be prepared to connect your youth or child with the supports that they may need to get help if they're struggling and you don't know how to help them. So I'm going to dive into some specific ways that we can do those 6 things. When you're having these conversations, always try to hold in your awareness how vulnerable a time this can be for any youth. It probably also is for yourself. And when you're telling the truth with that honest and age-appropriate explanation, you want to talk about what happened to the person who died. You can do that using just short and simple sentences, using words that they can understand. This is the best way that we can help them begin to process and adapt to the reality of this loss that's been experienced. It also shows them that we as adults in their lives can be trusted to tell them the truth. A helpful way to explain suicide that I found is by explaining it as a reaction to emotional pain that has not been treated or healed or dealt with. And the person that was experiencing that pain, maybe they hid that emotional pain, which made it really hard for anybody to help. And as you do that, you can also share with your child your own grief, even in simple ways by explaining that you're sad or that you feel helpless in regards to this loss. Encourage your child to tell you what they're hearing and what they're thinking. And again, just listen without judgment. If you hit a question that comes up in the conversation and you don't maybe feel confident with the answer, no pressure. It's okay to say, like, maybe this is my best guess, and you can share some those possible guesses and invite your youth or child to share their own. If you feel like the conversation maybe isn't moving and you need some helpful questions to ask, you can even simply ask, tell me what you know about suicide, or tell me what you think about death. What do you think happens when we die? What emotions are you feeling in reaction to this event? And normal emotions that we all experience to loss are, especially suicide, is guilt, shame, anger, confusion, fear, and sometimes just the absence of emotion and the sort of a numbness in our bodies. And even while talking about all this, you can reassure your child by telling them that the things that lead to suicide for a person can change. And that can happen with help from trusted adults like yourself. And then modeling healthy grieving by initiating a conversation, sharing memories about the person you've lost and inviting them to share the memories that they have is moving into the grieving process with that child or youth in your life. I think it's hard but important to remember that talking to the kids in your life about suicide, or asking them if they themselves are suicidal, will not increase their risk, but instead it may actually decrease any risk that they may be experiencing. And then you're going to want to allow your young person space, because it takes time to process, and it takes time to even maybe fully develop questions. So it may be hours or days down the road that they may actually need to talk more, and initiating that conversation multiple times may be really helpful. And as those trusted adults, it's our job to monitor them closely, look for signs that they may be struggling with through the grieving process, to try to notice different behaviors like isolation, notice mood swings. A lot of what we feel is manifested in our bodies, so that can be fidgeting, changing in sleep, hygiene, eating too much, too little, and even being disinterested in the normal hobbies that they may find joy in, are all things to look for. And especially just remembering that those overt statements of feeling hopeless or worthless or helpless are things to not ignore. Reminding both ourselves and the young people in our life that all of these experiences are actually normal for grieving, and we have to work through that grieving process. We have to process our grief, and if we can model that for our kids, that will help them do the same. And lastly, coming up with a few strategies for managing all of those feelings, such as talking to friends, talking to parents, talking to other trusted adults, and developing a specific plan in case your child becomes worried about their own safety. Provide with them crisis resources that they can use if they maybe wouldn't want to talk with you. And you'll find those resources in the comments area of this video. In case you're not sure where they are or how to find them, we'll make those available to you. And lastly, just remembering that when we numb out our feelings as adults, we're more likely to miss the opportunities to be available to the young people in our lives. So working hard to stay present with them is really important. So thank you for working through this, being engaged and being a part of our healing as a community. We really have to have each other to do this. And reach out if you have questions that were answered in this video, and we'll get the answers to you. Thanks so much, everybody.